While Dick's walking away, I think now is as appropriate a time as any to thank Dick and Tony and Jackie and Gus and everybody who was involved in preparing our meal this evening. And also thanks to the dining hall staff for the cake. Thank you all. So in our discussions planning this event for this year, we were discussing a few things and realizing that it is our 90th summer here at Horseshoe and our 60th at Ware. Kind of a celebration of anniversaries also dictated a little bit of a throwback to bringing in a few members of our original board members to speak a little bit about why we are the Horseshoe Scout Reservation Alumni Association, what went into the creation of it, why we do what we do. And I'd like to thank both of our next two gentlemen for coming out to speak to everyone here tonight. I'd like to start off with Joe Eagan, who's a lot of people say that it goes back to his brainchild of trips and whatnot up to New England. So I'd like to bring Joe up here for a few moments and share his thoughts.
Thanks for inviting me to speak tonight. I've been asked to say a few words about how and why the Alumni Association was founded. And I'd really like to focus on one thing, which is the importance of the Alumni Association in helping to make sure that Camp Horseshoe and Camp Ware, but especially Camp Horseshoe, is around for another 90 years in the future. I was a camper and a staff member at Camp Horseshoe in the early 1970s with Eric and a number of other people here, Dave Moyer. Ernie Heegard was the camp director. It was a wonderful experience. And it wasn't until many years later that I really began to realize quite how special it was. After that, I left the Pennsylvania area. I lived in New England for many years. About 20 years ago, I was asked, when I was working in Boston, I was asked to help prevent a Boy Scout camp in New Hampshire from closing. This camp was actually a lot like Horseshoe. It had very deep traditions that had been around for a long time, and it had a lot of former staff members that loved it. But it had been losing enrollment for quite a few years, and ultimately the camp could not be saved. That lesson stuck with me. I got to wondering at that time, this is about 20 years ago, I got to wondering whether Camp Horseshoe, which I had loved very much when I was younger, was at any risk of itself being closed. You might know that more than 100 Boy Scout camps have closed across the United States in the last 2 decades. And in fact, 9 camps, Boy Scout camps in Pennsylvania, have closed. So I took a look at Camp Horseshoe's situation, and I talked about it with Bill Taylor, who was the president of Chester County Council at that time. And what Bill said to me was that there is a simple formula for keeping Camp Horseshoe open. If Camp Horseshoe is not profitable, then Horseshoe Scout Reservation loses money. If Horseshoe Scout Reservation loses money, Chester County Council is in financial trouble. And if Chester County Council is in financial trouble, it risks being merged into another council, which happens all over the United States. When a merger like that happens between 2 councils, typically the financially weaker council loses its scout reservation and their camps are closed. So really everything depends upon Camp Horseshoe remaining profitable. That's the formula. So I worked with Eric and Jim Matthews and others to help create the Alumni Association as a strategy to help keep Camp Horseshoe profitable so that it never really has to close. But what does that have to do with the Alumni Association? Here's the connection. There are not enough Boy Scouts in Chester County Council to fill Camp Horseshoe during the summer camp season. About 1/3 of the camp's enrollment here during the summer comes from other councils. Troops from New York, North Carolina, everywhere in between. It's these troops that keep Camp Horseshoe profitable. And of course that keeps the reservation profitable, which keeps Chester County Council profitable, and keeps the council and Camp Horseshoe from being merged out of existence. Why do these out-of-council troops come to Camp Horseshoe? After all, many of them pass as they drive hundreds of miles to Camp Horseshoe. They're passing many other Boy Scout camps on the way. They're coming here for one reason. Camp Horseshoe runs a traditional, old-style Boy Scout camp that is almost impossible to find anywhere else these days. And Camp Horseshoe does this using a unique program model that was perfected by Ernie Heegard and which has been carried on by Mike Berkeyheiser and others with great success. If Camp Horseshoe abandons that style of summer camp operation, it will lose the main reason that out-of-council camps come here and Camp Horseshoe will ultimately close. I helped to organize this alumni association to provide a constant reminder of what has made Camp Horseshoe great, so that Camp Horseshoe will continue to do those things and survive for another 90 years. And thanks to all of you in the Alumni Association, that strategy of keeping the traditions alive here at Camp Horseshoe is working and will continue to help this camp get to its 100th anniversary and beyond. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to John Kemmerer and his team, and to all former officers of the Alumni Association, and especially to Dick Bensing for helping to make the Alumni Association's dreams for a better and more beautiful camp a reality. Thank you.